on, you guys? My name is Nick, and welcome back to the channel. So last night, I was lucky enough to be able to attend an early screening of Death on the Nile, so of course, in today's video, I'm bringing you guys my review. Writer Michael Green returns alongside director and actor Kenneth Branagh, who portrays the world-renowned detective Hercule Poirot. Dude, I cannot pronounce that shit whatsoever. As he investigates a murder, only this time not on a train, but on a boat. I was pretty disappointed by this movie. I mean, coming off the successful Murder on the Orient Express, and after seeing those, to be frank, amazing trailers. I thought the trailers for Death on the Nile were amazing. The way that they utilized the song, and I just love it when a trailer weaves a good song into the visuals of the trailer. Like, the Batman does that very well. Logan with that Johnny Cash song is another one that comes to mind. Just a little side tangent on trailers, but yeah, I mean, those trailers were so good, and then coming off the original Orient Express, what Branagh was able to do with that film, I was almost 100% sure that Branagh was going to be able to deliver a sequel that was not only lived up to the original, but it could possibly exceed it and even be a better film. But unfortunately, I was a little wrong. And saying that makes it sound like this movie was just a complete disaster, bottom of the barrel garbage, but to tell you the truth, it's not that at all. I make it sound a lot worse than it actually is. I wouldn't even consider this movie a bad film whatsoever. It was so disappointing. A part of the disappointment stems from the way that the film opens. We get a bit of backstory regarding Branagh's character, but the way it is done feels so out of pocket to the rest of the film. Not only tonally, but visually, the way it's shot and then the way it's colored, it just feels so out. It feels like you're watching a completely different movie. It felt like I was watching 1917 meets The King's Man. It was so weird and out of pocket. But like, I understand why Branagh felt like he needed to show us this backstory to his character, especially in the opening scene, and when it all ties together thematically. It definitely makes sense. And in the context of the film, it makes sense. It's just the way it came off felt completely different to the DNA of what the film was trying to construct. You guys know me. I am all for breaking down a character, peeling back the mask of that character. It's just, in the case of Branagh's character and in this film, it's done in such an out-of-pocket fashion. And not only was it out of pocket, it was, to be frank, it was pretty boring. When comparing this film to its predecessor, the drastic difference in pacing is insane. Like, when writing this video, I pulled up Murder on the Orient Express on my Movies Anywhere account because I have the digital copy code on there, and I was just curious, so I skipped through just to see, like, right when the murder happened and right when the investigation happened, and I think the timestamp is like either 38 minutes or 39 minutes. But in this film, I could totally be wrong about this time-wise because I can't pull up, to see how much time is left in the movie when I'm in the movie theater. So when it comes out on Blu-ray, I'll definitely buy it, and I'll confirm with myself to see if this is right or not. But the way that this movie is done, it feels like the murder and the investigation doesn't happen until almost an hour and a half in. I'm willing to bet that I'm definitely wrong on the time specificity of it, because I mean, that just sounds crazy, right? Like, a 2-hour movie when the first hour and a half is just set up to the investigation and you only get 30 minutes of investigation, it just doesn't sound right. It just doesn't make sense. But that's definitely what it felt like, you guys. The first half of this movie is just set up for these characters that you don't really give a shit about. Like, the first film, it wasn't as much of a character study because it was more of the investigation. You weren't getting a whole lot of backstory and a whole lot of exposition in that first 30 minutes. I just pressed a button. I hope I didn't fuck anything up. But you don't get a whole lot of exposition in those first 30 minutes. You're like, you get to know Kenneth Branagh's character, and then you get to know I think his name is Burke, his character, and then you're immediately on the train. And yes, you do pass around meeting everyone, but you don't get their immediate backstory. You only get those part, god damn it. You only get the backstory of those characters when Kenneth Branagh's character is interviewing those characters for the murder. But in this movie, in Death on the Nile, we get this backstory prior to even getting on the boat to sail off, like prior to the wedding even happening. It's very jarring in comparison to the original, just because the original had such great pacing, and I like the original so much that I wouldn't say that this movie is a complete failure as a sequel. It's just, it is so different in DNA as compared to the first one, and I think that's what really threw me off about this movie. And honestly, other than pacing and that opening to the film just feeling so out of pocket and jarring to the rest of the movie, those are my only complaints about it. I think as a whole, the cast does a terrific job with the material that they're given. I mean, obviously, the writing on this film isn't Oscar-worthy writing. I mean, you're not expecting it to be. But with the material that the cast is given, they do a terrific job, and Brana does enough misdirect to keep you guessing up until the actual reveal of who the killer is. And I can safely say, confidently say, that this movie is much less predictable than Scream 5. But I will say it is more predictable than Murder on the Orient Express, its predecessor. So take that how you will. I think that the twist in the first film is just it's pretty brilliant. I just personally feel like that the first movie, Murder on the Orient Express, did a lot of the things better that Death on the Nile was trying to do. And that's very interesting to me, because a lot of reviewers that I like to watch on YouTube, they said the opposite. They preferred Death on the Nile over Orient Express. So I mean, that just goes to show the subjectivity of film. And I also want to bring some attention to the amazing, outstanding costume design and set design of this film. Outside of the Oscars and, you know, like Golden Globes and just award shows like that, people and reviewers don't really talk a whole lot about costume design and set design, and those two elements of filmmaking are so important to creating the feel and the DNA of the film. But yeah, I mean, you can even see it in the trailers. Just like if you go on Google Images and you type in Death on the Nile, you see any picture of Gal Gadot or Kenneth Branagh's character or just any scene in the movie, it looks impeccably shot. The costume design is beautiful. The way that there's a scene in particular when Gal Gadot is speaking to, the character's name in the film is Jackie. I don't know her real name in real life. She plays Maeve in Sex Education. But they're talking at a bar, and there's just this it's like panel of lights right above them, and it is such a beautiful shot, and it complements their dresses so well, and their drinks that they have at the bar specifically. It like really illuminates those drinks. It's just, I'm geeking out talking about it right now. Overall, I enjoyed this film. I had a pretty good time at the movies with it, and I definitely recommend you guys see it if you have any interest in these types of murder mystery films, or if you have seen the original, because I definitely think it's worth seeing this film if you have seen Orient Express, even if it's not as good as the first one. Yeah, and I guess that's the ultimate compliment I can give this film, is that even though that first hour and 20 minutes drags, and it drags pretty hard, once the investigation starts happening and it starts, you know, picking up the pace, the movie's very captivating. It's very entertaining, and it keeps you held, and it keeps you grabbed there until the very end. I will say, the ending of this movie, if I had made this movie, I would have made it differently, and I can't talk about it without spoiling it for you guys, so I'm not going to whatsoever. Just the last shot and the shot before the last shot, I would have either flipped those, or I would have cut out the shot before the last one, just because what happens in the scene before the very last scene of the movie, to me, it just doesn't make sense. I get that it's supposed to be this juxtaposition, but it didn't come off that way. It just came off as, I don't know, I don't want to say sloppy, because Kenneth Branagh, he's nominated for Best Director of the Year. That's just disrespectful, but to me, it felt a little sloppy. You guys, I'm going to give Death on the Nile a 3 out of 5. Now, I know this film just released worldwide today, so many of you probably have not seen this movie yet, but if you have, what do you guys think about it? Feel free to leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. I'd love to start a conversation, start a dialogue. But yeah, you guys, thank you so much for checking out this video. It really does mean a lot to me. I hope you guys did enjoy it, and I hope you guys stick around on the channel and check out some more of my videos. But yeah, you guys, that's enough for me for today, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.